So for example, if one of those antelope was leaning down eating some grass, it can quickly poke its head up, spot the follow me mark of the animal in front of them, and rejoin the rest of the group as they move through the tall grasses out here. But we're also coming up on our Maasai giraffe over here, and it looks like our wildlife care specialists are giving a bit of a snack to our lead bull giraffe up here. So go ahead and give a wave out there to our specialists who are working with them. Now these giraffe, of course, are going to be using those incredibly tall necks of theirs and their excellent eyesight to be able to spot predators up to 2 miles away. And a lot of our other animals are going to hang out close to these giraffes, using them as their lookouts. As I mentioned, he is our main bull male, and it's always going to be easy to tell him apart because the more testosterone the giraffe has, the darker its skin color becomes, so he's a much darker color than the others out here. It looks like they're all going to be enjoying a nice snack right now. But you'll also see that they've been doing a really good job keeping our trees trimmed out here. You're getting to a lot of the branches that none of the other animals are going to be able to reach. Standing out under tall trees like that, the shadows that come down from the trees are going to blend in very nicely with those spots, giving them a fantastic look at our big black Cape buffalo up here as well. You'll notice that black color really makes them stand out here, and that is completely on purpose, because unlike almost all of our other animals who will trick you, Dune, our camel, only one hump, as opposed to a Bactrian camel, which would have 2 humps. He's been an animal ambassador here at the park for many, many years, and has earned his retirement out here on these sandy hillsides. Now, as we start making our way up this hill, we're actually going to be passing into our next major habitat now. This is now Central Africa, and it's going to have a bunch of our animals that have adapted to life out in the forests, have more trees. Keep an eye out all around us under these trees and on the hillsides across from us to see if you can spot any of the animals trying to blend in out here. Oh, we're going to have a great view coming up the hill here. We're actually going to have one of our black rhinos sitting right here next to us in the shade of the tree. This is Aria, our female. We also have Kendi, who's kind of hugging up against the wall right now, so we can't quite see him. They are male-female, and we're hoping they're going to have kids down the road here. Now, as we pass by too, see if you can check out the long upper lip on that rhino, which is a great way for them to reach up into trees. Came up, and a couple of these roan antelopes standing up here at the top of the hill. And over here on the right-hand side, we're going to be in the deepest parts of our African forest.
Hey, I like stove. Oh, the small, right?
Looks like we have a couple more of those roan antelope also hanging out over here in the shade by the water. We also have a couple of our red front gazelle hanging over here in the shade of the trees next to us. They're going to be some of those are going to be having a reddish or orangish color, and that is going to be one of their main forms of camouflage. Now that might seem a little strange. The lions and cheetahs are going to be seen in black and white or shades of gray. So to them, red and orange are going to be a very similar shade to green. If you ever want to test it out for yourself, you can set your phone to black and white mode, and you would have your own predator vision to spot how well these animals will blend into their surroundings out here. We're actually going to have some more great examples over here on the left-hand side. Right here next to us in the shade of this palm tree, we actually have some of our male Miala. You may have seen some of the females that were hanging out right next to our tram station as we were taking off. And right here ahead of us too, we also have some of our Ugandan cob. These bright orange antelope, a very great example of that orange color, helping them blend in with the green grass out here. And just ahead of them as well, you may also be able to spot a couple of our greater kudu resting in the shade of these trees up here as well. They're going to be browner with white stripes running down their back as well. Now those white stripes are on a lot of those animals like the Nyala, those kudu, and the Sitatunga, and they're going to use those to try to blend in with the trees out here, breaking up their silhouette, similar to the way tigers are going to use their stripes to blend in with their Asian forests as well. Looks like we have some work going on out here, which is why a lot of those antelope all moved up to that upper end. But of course, we're also coming up on another animal you will definitely recognize just ahead of us past that fence down there, some of our Grevy's zebra. We're going to get a bit better view of them as we come around the corner here. Now this is actually our bachelor herd of Grevy's zebra, which means it's a bunch of our younger males who are all going to be spending their time together to protect each other while they wait for an opportunity to meet some ladies, which is the same kind of thing that they would do out in the wild. But unlike a lot of those other animals in the forest who have those stripes to blend in with the trees out there, the stripes on zebra are actually not very good for blending into their environment because they spend their time together in really big groups out on the open savanna. So they're not the best at blending into their environment, but they are actually really good at blending in with each other. As we come around the corner here, keep an eye on those zebra over to the left-hand side. And unfortunately, well, they're spread out a little bit. They're not going to be able to show it off quite as nicely as I would have liked. But when they are right next to each other, they do a really good job of blending together in one big group. So it's a different type of camouflage, but one that does work very well for those zebra, because our predators usually aren't going to want to mess with big groups of animals. They'll want to find ones off on their own that are easier to hunt. And well, those zebra also don't have any horns to protect themselves like most of our antelope do. They are also very good at kicking to protect themselves and are prone to biting as well. So they are quite good at defending themselves even so. As we head around here too, also want to draw some attention to some of our local landscape over here to the right-hand side. Here in Southern California, we have mostly chaparral and coastal sagebrush. And coastal sagebrush is actually the second most threatened climate here in North America because of the number of people living in this part of the world. So we have a lot of plants and animals here in our own backyard that we're looking to protect just as much as in other areas around the world. We've actually set aside about half of our property here at the park as a wildlife refuge to give a home to a lot of those local species. So keep an eye out. You never know what you might find today if you're watching. We do have a lot of local wild mule deer that like to hang out here in the park, and they enjoy the free food and protection we help provide here. Alright, over here on the left, we're actually going to have two more antelope species right here next to us. I'm going to talk about these nice big ones right here next to us first. These are our largest antelope species here at the park, our Patterson's eland. As you can see, they get very big, up to about 2,000 pounds at their full size. Being that big though, they need to have a special way to cool off on hot days like this one. And there under their neck you can see a little extra flap of skin hanging down called a dewlap. And that has a bunch of little blood vessels in it that help radiate springbok. Now the springbok are going to be well known for their jumping ability. What they do is actually called pronking, where they will arch their back and jump straight up in the air, kind of like a cat when it's scared. And they're going to do that jumping up to about 10 feet in the air in order passing by too. Right now on the right hand side, we're actually coming right up alongside our North African habitat, which has a lot of our animals suited to life out in the hot deserts of North Africa like the Sahara. And we can see a couple of our Barbary red deer hanging out there in the palm trees. That's actually the only deer species found in Africa. And they're well suited to the desert because they can go for a very long time without needing water, up to about 5 days without needing a good drink. And just ahead of us here too, I do spot a couple of them. They're kind of hiding from our view at the moment, but as we come around the corner, we'll probably see some of our Angola cattle over here on the right-hand side. Keep an eye for them over by these trees up here at the hill. Let's see if we can spot them. They're in a little bit of a hard spot for us to see right now. Yep, oh, there we go. You can see their horns and a couple of them sitting right up there at the top of it. Actually do have one more antelope before we continue all the way down the hill here. Over here on the left-hand antelope here in the park. These are some of our Hemsbach or Gemsbach, those bright silver, almost purple-looking antelope out under the trees over there. They've got those very pretty markings all over their body, including another very good example of a threat mask. Now they're actually one of our 3 oryx species here at the park, and all of our oryx. But as we keep making our... And speaking of which, over here on the left-hand side, you may actually spot some of those local wild mule deer hanging out under one of these that they had when they were still growing. Of course, it takes a lot of energy for deer that they're fully growing in. They're going to gain back a lot of that energy and become a bit more territorial. Now, all of our antelope and rhinos, on the other end, have horns, which are made from a material called keratin. Keratin is the same material that makes up our fingernails, the hair on our heads, and feathers on birds. And unlike those antlers that grow in every year, horns are actually a one-time thing. So if one happens to break or fall off, it's each other. So now we are passing by our last major habitat for our tour. This is now East Africa, which has a bunch of our animals adapted to these wide open grasslands that'll change a lot from season to season. Down here in the valley next to us, we'll have a great view of a bunch of our East African crown cranes. They're gonna... And speaking of bigger animals as well, up there on top... Keep an eye out for the incredible tongues on those giraffe. They are very flexible and long. If you reach from the tip of your finger all the way down to the bottom of your elbow, that's about the length of a giraffe's tongue. And they're going to be able to use that to twist around these branches, including the thorns that many of them would have to grab those leaves. Another fun fact for you is that while I mentioned the spots on these giraffe are going to be great for camouflage, they're also all completely unique. No 2 giraffe have the same spot pattern, just like no 2 humans have the same fingerprints. And our baby, for example, out there, she has little black stripes running along the front of her legs that kind of look like socks, and none of our other giraffe have that same pattern. I think she is quite the cutie, even if she is facing in the wrong direction right now for us to see those stripes. Over here next to us too, we also have a great view. As we start making efforts around the world. And we want to help raise awareness about all these amazing animals and habitats to go mining for more additional resources like those plastics or the metals used for many of our appliances. We're going to be exiting off here, over to the right-hand side here once we come to a complete stop. But of course, if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to come talk to any of our guys around the park, including me. I'm going to be standing up here at the front of the vehicle as we pull in if you have any questions or comments. And of course, I'd like to wish you the best with the rest of your day here at the Safari Park. Thanks, everybody.
She's probably, I want to say she's in her recording 8 different conservation hubs throughout